You're scrolling TikTok when a girl says, "Therapy saved my life. Best decision I ever made." Swipe again, and a guy goes, "Spent thousands. Still anxious. Felt like I was talking to a wall." So, which is it? Is therapy the miracle cure our generation swears by? Or is it just another overhyped self-help trend? We dove into Reddit, TikTok, Quora, YouTube, and personal confessions to ask the real question. Is therapy actually worth it? Let's see what the internet really thinks. Therapy is more mainstream than ever. Millennials and Gen Z are leading the charge, talking openly about anxiety, trauma, burnout, and mental health. But motivations vary. Some seek healing from childhood wounds. Others just need someone to listen. And a few just want coping tools for everyday stress. The idea? That talking helps. That you're not alone. That clarity comes from conversation. Now let's see what people are saying on the internet, starting with Reddit on subreddits like Ask Reddit, Therapy, Depression, and others. One user wrote, "I tried therapy, and either my therapist was incredibly insightful, or we just didn't mesh well. My partner had been begging me for a while to give therapy a try because I couldn't seem to find anything that made me happy. I was miserably going through the motions of life, no goals, nothing to work toward except paying the bills. I struggled to come up with things to talk about in therapy because, truthfully, I don't believe talking about my issues actually solves anything. I tried bringing up how money terrifies me, how I constantly worry I'll end up on the streets or won't be able to retire someday. I also talked about how I hate my career, even though it pays well, and how I have no idea what else I could do. On top of that, I mentioned that I don't even know what makes me happy anymore, or when I last truly felt happy. After a couple of months, my therapist said, "I think we've covered everything. If you agree, we can stop meeting." I was a bit confused, but also relieved, because therapy was costing me $100 a week until I met my deductible. I calculated that it would take about 10 months before my insurance would start covering it, so given my financial anxieties, it didn't sit well with me. I still don't know if the therapist ended our sessions because of that or because I didn't fully believe in therapy. Personally, I think you really have to want to be in therapy and commit 100%, otherwise it just doesn't work. Another user added, "Therapy is one of the single best things I've done in my life. Know that scheduling your first appointment with a therapist does not mean you have to keep seeing them. I see it as kind of an interview. Here are some things I think are good to keep in mind after meeting with a therapist, based off of experience. Are you comfortable with them? This could take more than one session, but sometimes you just know you won't be comfortable with someone. Did they make sure you didn't leave the session unregulated? That can be a 1. Things to keep in mind when searching for a therapist, based off of my experience. Do you prefer a man or a woman? Do you have any specific things you are looking for help with? For example, OCD, depression, PTSD, LGBTQ matters, etc. If so, you may want to research therapists that have expertise on the topic. Are you a POC? If so, you may prefer a therapist that is also a POC. And if you don't know the answer to these questions right now, over time you will find what you prefer. For example, I prefer and need my therapist to ask probing questions. I also make it clear right off the bat that I am not religious, so I don't want my therapist to suggest religion as a solution. Hope this helped. Another user added, "Yes, I feel it's worth it 100%, but you can only get what you put into it. I'm someone who always rationalized my emotions or downplayed them and dismissed them. I wanted practical solutions to my problems. I couldn't just tolerate the distress I felt, so I would look to distractions and escapism, and it wasn't really helping me. I'm a rational person, I'm somewhat aware of my problems, but the thing is, these deep emotional hurts and problems can't be solved by rationality or practical solutions. Don't get me wrong, they can help. Like, if you're depressed, exercise, good diet, going outside and spending time with people really does help, and practical remedies absolutely should be implemented. But therapy is about finding out patterns in our behavior before we repeat the same mistakes. It's about finding what makes us tick emotionally or what triggers us and what rigid mental traps and biases we hold without realizing it. I think there are so many things that we carry shame around that stem from when we were younger that really don't make much sense now as an adult to be ashamed about. But we still hold on to them because there are formative years and lessons that are learned young stick with us. So it's about unpicking that. Having somebody from the outside challenge that perception and offer perspective and maybe even help you to frame it in a different light. A lot of people who are victims of assault as children often feel shame for what they went through. Like it's their fault, and that's often because they were abused by someone in power. In therapy, part of it is reframing that perspective to challenge that shame because it's undeserved. It's also about just acknowledging things and finally being validated when no one else sees what you're going through. That's not something you can implement by yourself. I think we underestimate how important it is to have someone show us understanding when we go through a difficult period and how this actually helps us to process our emotions and move on. To me, it seems like when we don't and just try to suppress, deny or minimize these things, we never get over them. We just kind of cover it with maladaptive behaviors like addictions, distraction and escapism. Another user added in a response to post about therapy. Bruh, you've been seeing a therapist for 10 years, you seriously need to just get over whatever you originally went for. You've spent more than $10,000 to have someone tell you, it's your parents' fault for all of the trouble you are having. That will be $100. Guess what, your poor actions are what got you into the shit situation you are in. I'm depressed, I got anxiety and I got anger issues, people are the worst. I'm depressed, I need to go to therapy and get some antidepressants. You don't need therapy, just man up and move forward with life. 90% of the world's population has nothing to be depressed about. Stop lingering on sad things. I could understand someone who has served/serving in the military being depressed or suffering from PTSD. During World War II, people with shell shock had a therapy session for 1 to 2 days, were given rest, cleaned up, and a new uniform as treatment. 50 to 70% of the troops were fine after 3 days, and went back to working the next day. I got anxiety, so I need therapy is probably the worst of all. You don't have anxiety, you're just stressed. Are you anxious when you are doing an activity you like or eating good food? No, you say, well, guess what, you are just stressed and don't handle stress well. Figure out a way to manage your stress and stop worrying about shit that isn't going to happen. I have anger issues, so I need therapy. Guess what? You don't need a therapist to help you with your anger issues. Before you act, ask yourself this question: is this actually something I actually need to get angry about? 9 times out of 10 it is just people overreacting. Before you say I don't know what it's like to suffer and I've had it easy, I haven't had it easy. I'm poor and grew up poor. Have seen a lot of death despite not serving in the military. Guess what? Bad things happens and I just move on with life. I'm going to end up 6 feet under eventually. I'm not going to waste my time being sad about things. The desire to not be homeless and end up dead on the sidewalk like all the homeless that live in my neighborhood is a good motivator. The reason I went off on you like that was that you've been going to therapy for 10 years. No one needs therapy for that long. Long story short, therapy is a massive scam. There are also short answers that answer the question. One user wrote, my therapist gave me the words I didn't know I needed. I finally forgave myself. Another added, $150 a session to be asked, how does that make you feel? Not worth it. Others call it a luxury they can't afford. A system that only works if you're lucky enough to find the right match. And that's a theme across Reddit. Therapy can be amazing, or a total miss. TikTok has become the emotional release valve for therapy stories. You'll see people crying in their car post-session, saying they finally feel seen. Others venting that their therapist just nodded while the clock ticked. Some creators make viral videos like, things my therapist said that changed my life. Others make parodies mocking therapists for offering nothing but validation and breathing exercises. On YouTube, videos titled "Why I Quit Therapy" rack up hundreds of thousands of views. People talk about therapists texting during sessions, feeling judged, or simply not clicking, even after months. A 2023 study in Psychology Today showed 75% of therapy clients felt some improvement, but only 45% stuck with therapy beyond 3 months. The cost? Sessions in the US average $100 to $250 each, often not covered by insurance. And that's a huge barrier. Many commenters say therapy's worth is tied to privilege, time, money, access to quality professionals. Without those, the system can feel broken. The stigma and the silence. Therapy is more accepted now, but judgment still exists. Some people feel ashamed for needing it. Others feel guilty when it doesn't work. There's pressure to say therapy is always good, to act like it helped even when it didn't. And that silence keeps people from talking about therapy regret, or switching therapists when it's not a fit. Pros of therapy: when it works. Safe space to unpack trauma. Emotional validation and insight. Coping strategies for mental health. Long-term change through self-awareness. Cons mentioned online. Expensive and time-consuming. Doesn't always help, especially with a poor match. Can feel repetitive or surface level. Not one size fits all. So, is therapy worth it? Here's the internet's verdict. For some, it's the key to healing. For others, it's a frustrating, expensive disappointment. The truth? It depends on your therapist, your needs, and your willingness to try, or try again. What do you think? Have you tried therapy, or considered it? Drop a comment below and let us know your verdict. And if you like honest, deep dive internet storytelling like this, hit that subscribe button. Next time, we're tackling another taboo topic that people are quietly Googling.